Hey everyone, in this video we are not going to analyze a football game or a football team. This video is a part of a series where we are going to discuss certain footballing concepts so that the next time you're watching a football game, you're able to analyze it for yourself rather than wait around for some video on YouTube. My name is Abhishek and today we are going to look at two concepts specifically addressing the defensive side of football, screening as a unit and shifting as a unit. So let's jump right in. Now for convenience sake, let's call the red team Manchester United and let's refer to the blue team as Chelsea. Now as you can see from the image, Chelsea is the team in possession with the number 6 having the ball. Now Chelsea are playing in a 4-3-3 formation with fullbacks playing high up at the half line and the three midfielders playing in a triangle accompanied by three forwards. Against this, Manchester United are playing in a 5-3-2 formation with fullbacks a little further than the back three and a narrow midfield and forward line. Before we understand what screening is, it's important to realize that defending in football is about prioritizing. What that means is the responsibility of a defensive unit is always to address and defend the most dangerous and potent areas of the pitch first. Now usually these areas will more often than not be the central areas or the central channels. So if either of the three midfielders in the Chelsea line picks up the ball with a lot of time, he could potentially create some very dangerous scenarios for the defensive team. With this prioritization now in mind, let's try to understand what screening is. Screening, as the name suggests, entails the defensive unit to create screens or shields in front of the ball so that the team in possession cannot make passes in the central areas. Now if we look at the diagram, we realize that the two centre forwards for Manchester United have created a barrier for the centre back to pass the ball to either of the deeper midfielders, that's the number 5 and the number 10. But what does this essentially achieve? This achieves is that the team in possession is forced to play their passes sideways rather than forwards. So as you can see in this image, the centre back who has the ball is forced to pass either to his fellow centre back or to his nearest full back, neither of which is really creating an immediate threat. Now let's look at a situation in which one of the midfielder picks up the ball by getting past the initial shield created by the centre forwards. What you can see is that the United midfield immediately shuts down into a very compressed unit. What this results in is that the Chelsea forwards are taken out of the equation by the narrowness of the United midfield, making it virtually impossible to thread the ball through them. With the United number 9 falling back to put pressure on the ball, the only recourse available with the midfielder is to pass it sideways or backwards. This is the basic ideology behind creating defensive shields to nullify forward passes in central lanes. Let's look at a scenario which is very normal in any game you might observe. Here the Wolves winger has picked up the ball in a wide position. Now as you can see, there are three Newcastle players who are immediately required to react. One player has been marked the duty of closing down the inside channel, as you can see marked in the image. The Newcastle left back is cutting off the possibility of a pass being played to the player down the line. The third Newcastle midfielder is on alert to ensure that if the pass is made to the central midfielder, he can immediately press him. Thus effectively the only available pass for the wide player is to play it back to his centre back. Here is another example which is quite similar to the one we saw in the diagram. Here the Sheffield United midfield has narrowed themselves in such a way that the two Norwich midfielders have been taken out of the attack. At the same time, a ground pass to either of the two forwards is also out of the equation. So the only effective outball for the player in possession is to pass it to his nearest fullback. But isn't there also the option of making a switch to the fullback who is relatively unmarked on the other side of the pitch? This is where the second concept of the day comes in, shifting. To understand shifting, it's important to understand what we discussed in the beginning, that defending in football is all about prioritizing. Now for having clarity, I've divided the pitch into three zones horizontally. Let's look at these zones from the defensive team's point of view. So let's call the zone at the bottom as the left zone, the one at the top is the right zone, and let's call the middle one as the central zone. Now since the ball is in the left zone of the pitch, the entire focus of the defensive unit is to cut off any possible threats in the left and central zones. Thus the entire team has moved its efforts to block all possible options in these two zones only. As you can see, there's just one defender who is partially in the right zone of the pitch. This is the essence of shifting. So when we hear analysts and commentators talk about teams retaining their shape, they're partly referring to the team's ability to move and shift as a unit and not leave gaps to exploit in between them. Here is an example we can see in the Madrid derby. Since the ball is in the right defensive zone, the Atletico Madrid left back has focused his attention to ensuring that the midfielder, which is marked by the arrow, doesn't get himself in any threatening positions. As of now, the Real Madrid winger, who is stationed behind him, is his last concern. If at all the ball is moved from the right zone to the left zone, he will automatically shift his attention to the winger on this near side and the entire team will follow suit. But what's the way past this? This is where modern football has truly developed. From the attacking point of view, to be able to exploit this facet of a defensive unit, the centre backs in today's environment need to be immaculate with the respect of their passing range. Thus, the ability of Harry Maguire, Virgil van Dijk and Sergio Ramos to be able to make accurate 40-yard passes helps in catching defensive teams off guard while shifting sideways. They are thus able to create situations where the unattended winger or fullback is given an opportunity to go one-on-one against the isolated defender and create potential opportunities. So there you have it, screening and shifting. Once you understand this, you'll realize that while watching any football game, when any team scores a goal, if you watch the attack from the build-up phase, more often than not, the team in possession scored because some player in the defensive unit either failed to screen a pass or wasn't quick enough to fulfill his duty while shifting the shape of the team. So make sure you try to find these attributes of a defense while watching a football game and analyze for yourself. Drop a comment about any concept or structure you would like to see explained in a similar fashion and I'll try my best to do that. Also share this with people who enjoy football. Thanks a lot.